The Great War was finally over. But for the Ottoman Empire, the silence of the guns wasn't the sound of peace. No, it was something far more ominous. It was the twilight of a 600-year-old legacy, a heavy, atmospheric quiet right before the final collapse. Before we dive deep into this pivotal moment, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, turn on notifications, and share and like my videos. All the information we're covering today is compiled from open sources. Thank you. Now let's get into it. It all starts with this date. On October 30th, 1918, aboard a British battleship, Ottoman officials signed what was called the Armistice of Mudros. Now, on paper, this was just an agreement to stop the fighting, but in reality, it was an unconditional surrender, and it left the entire empire completely vulnerable to whatever came next. And what came next wasn't peace, it was partition. You can see it right here. The ink on the armistice was barely dry before the victorious Allied powers started carving up the empire like a cake. It was a swift, systematic takeover. British, French, Italian troops just fanned out across the heartland. And then, the real flashpoint. May 15th, 1919, Greek forces land in Izmir. That move would spark a whole new, brutal war. This wasn't peace, it was a feeding frenzy. You know, you might think the capital city, the very heart of the empire, Istanbul, the seat of the sultans for centuries, would be safe. But it wasn't. The final act of this drama was about to unfold right there. And this is where things get really interesting. While so many people were still in shock or denial, one general, Mustafa Kemal, saw exactly what was coming. He expected the Allies to eventually try and silence the last bits of the Ottoman government. And he wasn't just waiting for it to happen, he was already planning his countermove. A silent storm was gathering, and its destination was a small town in the middle of Anatolia. And this was the day Mustafa Kemal's prediction came true. Allied forces made it official. They occupied Istanbul. Imagine the scene. Warships from foreign powers filling the Bosphorus, troops marching through the streets of a city that had once ruled one of the world's greatest empires. The results were immediate and total. The Ottoman parliament shuddered, its members arrested, and some were even exiled. The Sultan was basically a prisoner in his own palace. And this is the crucial takeaway. This action created a massive power vacuum. The Ottoman state, as a functioning government with a voice, had essentially ceased to exist. But you know how it goes. As the old order in Istanbul was crumbling into dust, a new center of power was starting to emerge. From the ashes of the empire, something entirely new was about to be forged. The mood was shifting from despair to defiance. And the response came fast. Just a little over a month after Istanbul's occupation, it happened. In a small, dusty Anatolian town called Ankara, far beyond the reach of those Allied guns, a brand new assembly convened. They called it the Grand National Assembly of Turkey. This new assembly was built on an idea so radical, it's hard to overstate. It's captured in this Turkish phrase, Hâkimiyet-i, Milliye, national sovereignty. You have to understand, for over 600 years, all power came from one person, the Sultan. This new principle just completely flipped that upside down. It declared that ultimate power belonged unconditionally to the nation itself, to the people. And this new assembly in Ankara, well, it wasn't just for show. It took action. In its very first resolution, it declared that there was no power superior to itself. That was a direct challenge to the Sultan in Istanbul and to all the occupying forces. The gauntlet had been thrown down. And this slide just perfectly illustrates the bizarre new reality. You had two different governments both claiming to rule the same nation. On one side, you have the old order in Istanbul, an ancient dynasty that was now basically a puppet for the Allies. And on the other, you have this new order in Ankara, which got its power from the will of the people and was determined to kick the occupiers out. I mean, a situation like this just can't last, right? Something had to give. Yeah, this standoff was completely untenable. And as the nationalist armies started to actually win battles against the invaders, a new question came up. The question was no longer just how to save the nation, but what kind of nation it was going to be. Would the Sultan stay? Or was it time for a final, radical break with the past? That debate was about to explode into the open. The breaking point came from an unexpected place, an invitation to a peace conference in Lausanne, Switzerland. Now, the Allies, trying to be clever, invited delegates from both the Sultan's government in Istanbul and the nationalist government in Ankara. They were hoping to divide and conquer. But what it really did was force the issue.
It made everyone ask, who are we really fighting for? To save the Sultan or to create something new? There could only be one real representative for the Turkish people. And the answer came on this day. The Grand National Assembly in Ankara gathered for what would be one of its most important sessions ever. The fate of a 600-year-old dynasty was literally hanging in the balance. And here it is, the actual text of the law they passed, and it is an absolute masterstroke of political genius. See, Mustafa Kemal and his allies argued that the Sultan had lost his right to rule the moment foreign soldiers occupied his capital. So this law retroactively declares that the Sultanate had effectively ended way back in 1920. With just one vote, 623 years of Ottoman rule wasn't just finished, it was legally erased from existence. The Sultanate was abolished.
The break was total. The empire was now officially a thing of the past. The nation itself, speaking through its assembly, had claimed all power. But look, tearing down an old world is one thing, building a new one, that's a whole different challenge. The giant was awake, but now it faced the incredible task of deciding what it was going to become.